Hopefully this works. I'm not really trusting this recorders here. Hi guys, welcome back. Right, so I talked about the last day. We talked about how to like program things correctly. You know, having your different blocks. So what we want to look at today is like the bottom block. There was like good movement patterns. So how do we achieve that? How do you get good movement? You know, a lot of people can tell they feel stiff or they don't move correctly. You know, we're sitting at our desks a lot. We're feeling generally stiff and sore, or we're trying to do movements and we might be doing them correctly in the gym. So we want to look at today what causes like poor movement, or how do we get good movement. Okay, so one thing to do with this is to think about parts, patterns, or performance. And what I mean by that is there's loads of different like patterns. Okay, so like there's what we call like higher level movement patterns, transitional movement patterns, and primitive movement patterns. And they're all different, right? So just because you're poor at squatting, it doesn't mean necessarily you won't be able to do like a single leg deadlift or like a step up or a lunge, you know? So or maybe you're poor at those deadlift actions. Well, you can maybe do a squat instead, or you could do a lunge, or you could do maybe like a step up, as we said. So it's about like looking at the different patterns. We talked about the different movements last day, like, you know, push or pull, vertical, knee dominant, hip dominant. So if we break that into a bit more movement, we have like squat patterns, 2 feet side by side, squatting up and down, lunge, split squats, or where one foot is in front of the other. Our hurdle is like step up, where we're lifting a leg and we're stepping up, and then hinge is where we're like pushing back through the hips. So basically, to be able to do these effectively, generally then we need these transitional patterns. We need these like basically our core stability in both directions, and then to have those correctly we need to have good mobility in the shoulder and the hamstring. Okay, so if you're good, say if your squat generally looks good, the movement is good, well then it's probably time to move on back to the gym, like moving that into work capacity, moving that into like strength. Okay, so like, and if it's not, then the key thing to do is like find out what part is wrong. And that's what we're going to talk about today. It's like what causes the poor movement. So it's just good to have an idea of like, you know, check yourself doing these exercises. Can you do them correctly? And again, I'll be sending through videos on all these ones of like what it is to look for, what are the things to do correctly. So if you can do them correctly, you can add on, you can look at more of the gym based stuff that we do with the back aware belt. If you're not, stick more on the Pilates and look at the corrections that we have. Okay, so why we move poorly, like, so if we can do it correctly, we're moving on towards performance. We're trying to get more fit, we're trying to get more powerful or stronger. If we are moving poorly, say in the squat, we need to determine why is that. And generally it's in this order. It's a mobility issues, it's stability, like, or activation, you're not switching on the right muscles, or it's motor control, like you don't have the right technique. And generally it's one of those three. And the way we need to address this is mobility first, then stability, then motor control. So mobility is why we have to start with mobility first. Is there's two main reasons. The first is how we naturally develop as humans. You know, when we're born, we always have mobility. You can see like a kid, they can stick their like toe into their mouth, they can move, but we actually don't have stability. We can barely just lie on our back. You know, you give a toddler like tummy time just so they get used to some base stability. So over time though, in the first year, you learn how to like crawl. They learn to crawl and they're developing that core stability. And I've seen a lot of kids or teenagers, and they can have problems running or problems like even walking. And when we talk it through with their parents, it's like they didn't really crawl. So they kind of skip that really essential step to develop that base core stability and activation. So we have the mobility, then we're developing the stability as we go, and then after a year we start like stand, fall, you know, try a few little steps. And what we're doing there is like, that's the motor control. We're trying to put that stability and the mobility together to be able to walk and then eventually to run. So if we lose the movement, so say we can't squat correctly again, the best way to go back is just like retrace our steps. So make sure we have the mobility first, then make sure we have the stability, then we have the motor control. The second reason is that we're not that evolved from cavemen or cave women. You know, if you were given a presentation in front of 10,000 people, when people get butterflies in their stomach, that's like, or a quiver in their voice, that's because our fight or flight response is if we need to attack or we need to run. You know, it's not perceiving nervousness now as something that's not actually going to like attack you or be a danger to your life. So when you quiver, that's like that spike of adrenaline, which would help you to either leg it or fight. Or, you know, butterflies in the stomach is blood going away from your stomach into your legs. Because, again, just to get ready, into the muscles that are going to be used. So why I'm saying that is we're basically designed to be able to always move because we needed to hunt and gather food or we needed to run away. So if you get like, while I see a lot of knee problems and back problems, it's because we get stiff in the hip and in the ankle. But we're always still able to move, just in a poor way. So then people like move too much through their lower back, they move too much through their knees, and then they get sore. And the only time we really have the hip issues are when it's getting to a major issue, because they probably haven't been moving well through their hips for absolutely years, and they might have kind of started to wear out the joints. So they're the reasons why we need to work on the mobility first. So ways to improve mobility then. There's 3 reasons why you have poor mobility. So one is you could have like knots in the muscle. So like that's trigger points. We have this little knot. We need to push on the knot, release it off, then we can stretch. If we have a knot and we stretch, we're just going to stretch the bits that aren't overdone. Now I should have like... So like the foam rolling is, I did this last time as well. You know, we're foam rolling. When I'm trying to foam roll, basically this is called specific soft tissue mobilization, where I just like pin on the area, then rotate. So again, you can do this. I always bring the hockey ball to bed. You could just do whatever areas are sore. I'll do here. Say we're doing our hamstring, do a hamstring with a hockey ball. Here I'm like sitting on the ball. It's putting right in the middle of the glute. I bring my hockey ball to bed every day and I just do that there. So release off the hockey ball there, in around the side of the hip, etc. Okay. Okay, so that's one. Next is static stretching or any stretching. To be fair, I actually don't stretch that much. I probably should stretch my hamstrings a bit more. But I did a video just because people wanted to see how to stretch correctly. So this is another way of stretching I like as well. It's called active isolated stretching, where it's like you pull your toes towards your shins, say. So you activate the opposite muscle and then just give a bit of overpressure where you hold for 2 seconds. Okay, so you're activating the muscle. So let's see the hamstring, right? What you're going to do is your quad pulls the leg up and then you just assist. So you don't pull it up initially, the quad pulls it up and then you just give that over a little bit of pressure, 1, 2, drop off. Let the quad bring the leg up, push up, 1, 2. So you're like actively bringing your own leg is bringing itself up and then you just give it a little bit of over pressure. But you can just still do your static stretching. If you're doing stretching, just make sure that you don't overstretch. What you should do is hold stretch, like go to your first feel of stretch, hold there for 10 seconds to let it calm down, and then take a breath in, breathe out, and move a little bit further into the stretch. We don't want that muscle shaking. If muscle shaking is these things called the muscle spindles have started to activate, and basically what they're doing is like we're stretching too far, we feel like we're going to tear the muscle, so as soon as you relax off, it's going to like contract back. So you're kind of doing, it's not going to do you any good. And then lastly is joint mobility. Here's one for your upper back, and I'm going to show you something in a second. Last one with joint mobility. Let's do it again. Okay, last with joint mobility that we're doing is you want to move through the range about 30 times. In the other video we would have seen that hip mobility one, bringing the end range. This one's for an upper back that you can do, say, at a desk. See here, this is the old school with the back aware, but it looks slightly different, but the idea is the same. Don't let the sensor come out. I'm arching slightly here, but I'm not rounding my back. I'm trying to keep this bit solid and then just allowing myself to sink down, opening that upper back. Let me show you another joint mobility one. Here's another joint mobility one. So with that thing, we're going to do 30 times. So we're sitting right up in the wall. We're not letting that back slump again, but we're up against the wall, and then we're going to bring the arms up. And again, we're just with joint mobility, it's not like a thing of holding a stretch. You're just literally moving it through the range to the end range, and then you want to do it 30 times. So if I was doing this, I was going up one, and then both arms up. So you see, I'm not holding it. One, and then both arms up. Oh yeah, I usually do both arms up. I didn't do it this time. I wonder what I get in a second. Both arms up. There we go. So it's probably just showing one, and then both arms are coming up. So we just need to move that, say, 30 times. In total. So we know that we've kind of opened up that thoracic rotation. And we'll just do that for all of them. Now, what areas to hit? There's a thing called a joint by joint approach that's really important here. I'm going to actually, speaking of which, I'm just going to drop my leg down. Okay, so what that means is that every joint either is primarily mobile or stable. So at the arch, we should be stable. We don't want to have flat arches. At the ankle, we should have good mobility. So that's an area, heel drops, heel raises, drawing the numbers 1 to 10 with your foot, doing foam rolling of your calves. We need to have good movement at the ankle. At the knee, we should be stable, so we're not going to do any real movement there. At the hip, we should be mobile. So again, we always start our Pilates, nearly every Pilates, we start with a hip opener just to kind of get things moving and work on those joints. At the lower back, we should be stable. Upper back, you just saw us worked on 2 things there for desk mobility. Shoulder, we should be stable. Shoulder blade stable, shoulder joint mobile. Which again, you saw the 2 of those kind of working in unison. So, 95% of the time, you're going to be okay doing these. There is exceptions to the rule, like with surgeries, etc., where you might need to get mobility back in the knee or somewhere else that generally you don't need mobility. But in general, we want to be working on ankle, hip, upper back. And if you're working on those 3 areas, shoulder, for mobility, using either foam rolling, kind of some sort of stretching, or joint mobility, you're going to be good. Okay, so that's the first thing. We're working on mobility. Once we have the mobility, it's really important that we activate the muscles. Certain muscles get switched off because we're sitting a lot and just modern life. So we need to kind of get the core and glutes burning. I have people come to me with injuries and be like, oh, I do this 30-second stretch. I don't know why my hip's still sore or my back's sore. I'm like, you're sitting on your ass for 10 hours a day and you thought, what, a 30-second stretch is going to do what exactly? It's time to get real. You need to get this burning. And again, with the courses that we do, even for the runners, if we're given sports Pilates, we recommend at least once a week you need to be doing that kind of good movement base. And a lot of times people think, oh, is Pilates, is it stretching? Is it? No, it's not. It's we work the muscles incredibly hard. The other thing though is when we're looking at this, we want a good balance so that we're not tilted on one particular side. We're getting the deep core muscles working, and we're staying within this neutral zone. And you can see my back aware belt a lot of times. It's about teaching your body how to have that awareness, because that's not only going to help with the activation this round, but it's going to help in the motor control when we learn how to be more aware of our bodies. And more back on our feet. And then if we can do all 3 of these things, we're going to be laughing. So, do I have anything on motor control? Oh yeah, okay. Different positions. Okay, let's go through one here. Just an example. Do you know what? We have good music on this, but I won't put it on these videos just because it'll probably get banned, I wonder. Okay, so you see the way, again, as I said, we're going to start here with a hip opener. I'm not worried about my back position in this because it's unloaded, you know. So if this goes out of position, I'm not worried. I'm putting on office mode. But keeping the knee behind the toe here so that all the movement's occurring. A lot of times when people are stiff, the heel is up or the knee's very far forward. And now it's moving at the knee, but the knee's moving too much already. So we just want to make sure that the knee's behind the toes here, and that'll just kind of fixate the movement at the actual hip. And then I'm rotating that upper back. So we're working on upper back mobility here, and we're working on that deep hip mobility. Okay, so, you know, it's surprising. Even like teenagers, I've done different talks through the lecturing I do, and it's like they can be so stiff here. It's unbelievable. So don't be afraid to drop the other leg just to readjust, because we need to be in the right position. So we're always going to start with something like that, and I'd be surprised you do that 3 times, getting that knee, hip moving. You're going to be burning. Okay, then we just start. See what I'm doing here. Right there. I'm arching down. I'm coming all the way up. I'm getting used to trying to find that middle position. Now, the neutral spine is arranged. It's not just one particular spot, but it's just being aware of when you're in the middle, because that's going to help keep the pelvis in a good alignment. It's going to help to keep the back in a good alignment. Then I'm keeping the stomach up. Okay, so we're just going to start with, we're not arching our back down crazy there. We're keeping the stomach up, and we're keeping the stomach up, not arching our back. A lot of people can lift the legs super high, coming out, and I just want to keep that and hold there, okay? And I usually go kind of hard calibrate. So we're going to start with those. All these look easy, but when you're doing them, they're actually hard. And then we can kind of increase it by doing a little bit of a crawl. So, again, with the back aware belt, what's great here is I can actually use it to make sure to see my back position is not changing or not rounding or not dropping my back out of that position. So if someone's losing that position, they just go back to the easier version, which is great. But again, this is really working that core. And what we're doing here is now, think of the joint by joint. We're getting you moving through the hip and trying to stay stable through the back. Kind of reverse the way a lot of us are moving too much through the back and being stiff through the hips. So then we'll move on. So we'll do those. A bit of side plank we can do. A dead bug. So we're working the core in different positions. And you can see I like 45 minutes at least once a week to really get these muscles burning. And it'll just set things up nicely. A lot of my patients, they say after a while, it's like, oh, I finally I'm getting what you're saying. When we're constantly repeating these, we're constantly looking at not arching your back as you do these exercises. Can you hold the stomach? So getting the muscles working, but getting used to having that control is really important. Here's one for shoulder blades. We're not ever squeezing the shoulder blades together. That really doesn't work the exercise correctly. But what we're doing is bringing the elbows in, lifting that upper back. So again, we're working that upper back mobility as we do the exercise. Then do some hundreds. And then we're on our feet. And then again, same we can do for our glutes. We're really burning. I can't emphasize enough, if you're following along these, that you can do where you want to have this absolutely burning as we do it, and changing the variation, changing the way, the movement, lifting the leg up this time. We'll go straight. This is one where you can see, again, emphasizing that the back, belly button's in, hips are going back. We're not arching through our back as we do that. We're not. A lot of people, they can kind of they lose the back position. So we're just trying to get, again, movement through the hip, stable through the spine. And again, over time, when we do this, you see massive improvements. And then I could probably just use this one to show. Again, we can do the motor control side as well here, which is like once we've got used to using these muscles, other ones further on will have more of this, but we're just practicing now. Can we keep that can we keep that position, and like, can we go back down, holding the core without letting that sensor move, so we're not rounding at our back. And if we see the sensor move like crazy, we know, okay, you've gone through your back now, as opposed to feeling that through your hips. So we're practicing, just going as far as you can based on the back aware belt there, but we're practicing what we're doing. So now you can see that this is helping restore the movement, and we're back on our feet. Now if we're doing the gym stuff we were talking about, we have the base, and then the pattern is restored. So now we can just add weight, we can increase the demand on it. But again, I think the key things here is like, okay, we'll be careful with this stuff, a bit slow and controlled, which is great, but we're not, we're really working that core, we're really working those legs, and then that gets you freer. A myth is that people think like a little bit of stretching will do this. It has a place, the mobility stuff has a place. I do it, especially going to bed, releasing around my hips. I do around my calves as well, and we have different ones for people, like different like injury prevention stuff, like for calves and knees, etc. But what's really important is that we're putting all three of these things together. You saw some of the hip ones, you saw some of the core work, and then you're seeing some of like, the kind of stability ones. So again, we'll have other ones like squats on our feet, we're pulsing through, but again, not losing our kind of fundamentals. Okay. Okay, yeah, so as I said, we're using that back to be, getting back on our feet, and then that sets us up for a gym or sets us up that we're doing. But the key thing, I think, is you need to be at least once a week working on this movement control, and it really will enhance. It's not, sometimes people think this is like, oh, I want to just be fit, or I want to go running, or I don't really see the benefit in stretching. This is like, we have mobility, like I showed those desk mobility and stuff that you can do in the other times, but doing this once a week will just enhance the rest of the training a lot. So hope that kind of makes sense what to do. You basically want to look at mobility, stability and motor control on the ones that you're poor at. If you're good at it, you can just use those ones for your gym. So say if someone was like good at squats and hurdles, they could do squats and they could do step ups, and then try correct the lunge path. Sorry, one thing I forgot to add, it just takes 2 seconds. Basically, we will be sending out email videos, or like video emails with videos on how to do all these correctly. Like, so one other thing is like, well, I don't know what are the falls with a glute bridge, what are the falls with a lunge, what are the falls with a deadlift, etc. So we'll go through these and we'll send them in like blocks, like here's how to do some of the core exercises correctly, here's how to do some of the mobility ones correctly, here's some how to do some of the other ones. So obviously with the back aware belt, you just follow along, you use the belt so you know you're doing things correctly. But if you just want stuff that you're doing yourself, well, just stay with the emails and you'll be getting those. Thanks.